I'm Katherine, a 38-year-old part-time worker and full-time homemaker. My husband, John, also 38, is a salaried employee. He's in sales and is always on the move. 3 years ago, I married John and we rented a place to live together. But 6 months ago, John's father, my father-in-law, suddenly passed away. At that time, John asked me to move into his parents' house.
I'm an only child, and I can't leave my mom alone. Besides, it'll be reassuring to have mom around if you get pregnant in the future, right?
We've been wanting kids, but maybe due to her age, it's been difficult to conceive. I used to work as a company employee, where John, who was in sales, came in and out. I had just broken up with my boyfriend at the time, and John, who was very persistent, swept me off my feet. Considering our ages, it was a whirlwind marriage after just 6 months of dating. After getting married, I quit that job and now work part-time elsewhere. So, we started living with my mother-in-law, but gradually her attitude began to change. At first, she actively helped with the housework. However, she became a full-time employee. Actually, she's quite young, still in her 50s. Apparently, she had John at a fairly young age. It seems there was a significant age difference between her and my father-in-law. She became a full-time employee after my father-in-law died. She had been invited to work there before. As she became busier, she started leaving all the housework to me.
Katherine, please make my lunchbox. I want to save money. Also, tomorrow is garbage day, so make sure to gather it all up tonight. It's sunny, so please hang out the bedding.
My mother-in-law kept making more and more demands, and it was hard to keep up with everything. John has never helped out from the start. Instead, he teamed up with his mom to nag me.
Hey, isn't breakfast ready yet? Hurry up. Appearances are everything in sales. Make sure to iron my shirts. You come home in the afternoon. You should be able to handle the housework perfectly.
I started waking up at 4 a.m. to manage both work and housework. But neither John nor my mother-in-law ever thanked me, and they complained if the housework wasn't done properly. Honestly, it was really tough, but it's true that I earned the least. I've been putting up with this lifestyle. But one day, I saw something unbelievable. Looking back, that was the beginning of everything. That day, after finishing my part-time job, I went shopping for dinner. John was supposed to be on a business trip starting that day, and I was just thinking, I only need to prepare for my mother-in-law and myself. When I parked my car at the supermarket, I noticed a car across the street that looked exactly like John's. Looking at the license plate, I was certain it was John's car. He said he was going on a business trip today, so why is his car here? As I wondered, John casually waved his hand. There was a young woman with him, who smiled and got into John's car. Then, as she sat in the passenger seat, they suddenly kissed. I was completely lost. Then John looked back to reverse the car, and I instinctively ducked down. Thinking about it now, I wonder, why did I have to hide? When I cautiously looked up again, John's car was already gone. My heart wouldn't stop pounding for a while. As it calmed down, anger towards John welled up inside me. From there, I moved quickly. I immediately looked up a private investigator to check on John. And when John returned from his business trip, I casually asked him, I thought you were going on a business trip, but I saw you at the supermarket on the first day.
What? What are you talking about? Are you sure you didn't see wrong?
It was definitely your car. And weren't you meeting someone?
Yes, that's right. I had a job to do before I left on my business trip. That was a client. I went on my business trip after that.
For the meantime, I pretended to be convinced. I didn't mention the fact that they kissed and then disappeared together. After a while, I received the investigation results from the detective agency. As expected, my husband, John, was cheating on me with that woman at the time. But besides that, some surprising facts came to light. I decided to talk to John about everything. Based on his reaction, we would discuss and decide what to do next. And, to cut to the chase, I told John I wanted a divorce. After that, I tried to talk to John about the results from the detective agency. I sat directly across from John, holding the envelope with the investigation results. "Hey, John. I have something important to talk about."
What's up all of a sudden?
Then, at that moment, suddenly my Mill spoke to me. "Hey, Katherine, we're having relatives over tomorrow. It's almost the end of the year, right? Please prepare for the hospitality." According to Mill, this year, especially since my father-in-law passed away, many relatives were gathering. Relatives who usually don't come because they live far away were also coming, and she stressed the importance of not being rude. Being told such things the evening before, I was honestly in trouble. It was obviously impossible to go shopping and prepare well given the limited amount of time. Understood. Should I arrange for something like Chinese takeaways then? I suggested that, but both John and Mill were not satisfied.
Hey, everyone's coming and you're planning to serve bought food? This should definitely be a home-cooked meal, prepared with care.
Katherine, can't you even do that? Well, I mean, it's the end of the year and things are busy. I argued as best as I could. But it was me against the two of them. They ganged upon me in response.
If you can't even handle a family gathering, what are you going to do? If you're a daughter-in-law, you should be able to perfectly manage the housework.
Come on, please be thorough. At this point, my patience finally ran out. I was so appalled by their lack of understanding. All my pent-up frustration exploded, and I decided to retaliate against the two of them. This stage was set for the next day when the relatives gathered. I would make them embarrass themselves. Understood. I have preparations for tomorrow, so I'll leave you to it. I put the envelope I had laid out on my desk back into my bag and left the scene. And truly, I started to prepare for the next day's cooking. I had to buy ingredients, and I figured I would be up almost all night. But imagining their embarrassed faces made it not feel like a burden at all. As expected, I could hardly sleep that night. But from the morning, relatives began to gather gradually, and I was busy attending to them. Once that had settled down, I spoke to John. "I forgot to buy the alcohol for everyone. I'll step out for a bit." John agreed without any suspicion. While it was true that we were running low on alcohol, I had other places to go as well. When I returned home with the alcohol, John was eagerly waiting for my return.
Oh, I've been waiting. The booze.
To be precise, he was waiting for the alcohol, not me. John served the alcohol I brought to the relatives, and the drinking party began right away. And as I served the food I had been preparing since yesterday, we moved straight into the dinner feast. Once John and the relatives were quite tipsy, the time had come for me to expose what I had been preparing for some time. "Hey, take a look at this." I started clearing away the beer bottles and plates in front of John.
Hey, what are you doing?
Ignoring John's protests, I confronted him with the investigation results from the detective agency. John's expression vanished in an instant. "Who is this woman?" I actually knew who she was, but I wanted to see John's reaction, so I deliberately asked him that.
No, this is the...
That was all John could say before he fell silent. Then a relative sitting next to John noticed something was off.
"Hey, what's this?"
The relative picked up a photo from the table. John quickly snatched the photo back at the speed of light.
No, it's nothing.
John was so flustered at that moment. I almost burst out laughing watching John's series of actions. The relatives around us began to take notice. I thought, now's the time. If you won't answer, then I will. This woman is a new mid-career hire at your client's company. John didn't respond. And that's all a lie.
What?
Take a look at this photo. I said that and showed John another photo. It was a photo of John with the woman he was cheating with and another man, not John.
Could this man possibly be?
John quickly recognized who the man was. This man is the manager of your rival company. And the woman was hired by this manager to seduce you.
What? So that means...
Yes, this woman was a honey trap set up by your rival company. I could see John's face, which had been red from the alcohol, turn pale rapidly. There's no way a young girl like her would approach an old guy like you. Don't get ahead of yourself. You must have talked about your company's secrets in bed, didn't you? John didn't respond, but his expression made it clear I was right. Then suddenly, John grabbed my arms and pleaded with a pathetic look on his face.
Please, I'm begging you, don't tell the company. I'm sorry I cheated. I'll break up with that woman. If you keep quiet, the company will only suffer a bit of damage and that'll be the end of it. You don't want your husband to lose his job, right? Please, I'm begging you.
John desperately got down on his knees. While I looked down on him with a slight disdain, I delivered the final blow that would plunge him into despair. Oh, sorry about that. I've already sent everything to your company by mail and email. John looked up, but his face was filled with despair. I wonder what's happening with your company now? Oh, but right now it's the holiday season. Either way, by the start of the new year, your seat will be gone. By this point, all the relatives' eyes were on us. Amidst this, my mother-in-law interjected.
Katherine, what are you thinking? You know what will happen if you do something like this, right? Just because he cheated? Is this what a wife should do?
Mill's face was flushed. Not from alcohol, but I continued resolutely. Yes, indeed, this is not what a wife should do. That's why I am quitting being this man's wife. And by the way, I'm quitting being your daughter as well. Saying this, I slammed the filled-out divorce papers on the table.
No way, Katherine, stop. What are you thinking? No way. I won't accept a divorce.
John and my mother-in-law teamed up against me again. I was ready to dismiss them. However, something unexpected happened.
Go for it, Katherine. Do it.
Don't hold back. You were cheated on, right?
The relatives who were listening around us sided with me. Unlike some people, it was good to see that the relatives were sensible. Unexpected reinforcements, right? Having even one person agree with you in times like this is reassuring. John and my mother-in-law, thinking the relatives were on their side, were clearly shaken. At this point, John tried to gain sympathy.
I was deceived. I'm the victim, you understand. I'll break up with that woman, and well, I might get fired, but come on, that's too easy.
Yeah? You unemployed guy.
He wasn't even fired yet, but look at the criticism. It was starting to get slightly amusing. The reason for the divorce isn't just the cheating. Saying this, I pulled out my smartphone and played a certain audio clip. It was a recording of John and my mother-in-law pushing all the housework on me and hurling insults. I had started recording this around the time I hired the detective, just in case something like this might happen. And this was enough to stir up the relatives.
Both of you didn't do anything. How terrible.
Did you make Katherine do all the cooking today, too?
She's right to divorce you.
The voices of the relatives criticizing them both were all directed at John and my mother-in-law. Feeling assured of my victory, I stood up and addressed John and my mother-in-law. So, I will be leaving now. Goodbye.
What? Right now?
John's voice completely cracked. My bags are already packed, and I've already informed my parents. Goodbye, then. I touched the door and, turning back, said, I'll be taking a hefty alimony, just so you know. My parents had already accepted me back home after I explained the situation. Home is great. I hardly have to do any chores. My call history was filled with attempts from John and my mother-in-law. It was too much trouble, so I've blocked them already. Looks like I'll be busy with the divorce proceedings soon. Since I didn't want to see John anymore, I asked a lawyer to handle the procedures. According to the lawyer, John indeed broke up with that woman, and then he was fired for misconduct. I demanded a large sum for alimony. Even if it goes to mediation, I have solid evidence on my side, including the cheating photos and the audio recording. My victory is certain. My mother-in-law ended up having to do the housework, struggling to balance it with her job. Since I don't have to do housework anymore, I've been dedicating myself to my job. My current company has offered me a full-time position. Although I have enough money from the alimony, I think I'll stay away from men for a while. Work is my lover now.